Paul McGinley has been a European Tour and Ryder Cup star stretching over 2 decades, with wins in Europe and the US, and is tipped to become the first Irish captain when the event returns to Europe in 2014. Today I'm catching up with him at the famous Ryder Cup room at Wentworth Golf Club. Paul, thanks for joining us at Wentworth this morning. I'm going to make you feel a little bit old now and start with your amateur career. How did you initially get involved in the game?
Well, it was my dad, obviously, same as you, caddying for our dads. That's where I met you first, way back in the 80s, caddying for Dad. Dad used to play all the amateur championships, and that's where I started and learned the rules and learned the how to behave in a golf course and all that kind of stuff. And I learned a lot of tips as well too, in match play tips. Probably one of the reasons why I've always enjoyed match play more than stroke play. So, but that was it, caddying for Dad right up to the age of, I think I was 19, probably a bit older, 20 when I played in my first championship.
Because you were quite a late developer, really, weren't you? You weren't the kind of starlet in the boys and stuff.
No, I wasn't, far from it. I used to play a couple of the boys' things, but I was 5, 6, 7, 8 handicap. Gaelic football was my thing. I played a lot of hurling and I played soccer, but Gaelic was what I was best at. So I had no desire to be a golfer.
Right.
Didn't even cross my mind. I was a very good point taker. That's where I played half forward.
Right.
And I was very good at pointing from 30, 40 yards out. That was probably my strength. And I could read the game. The game came a bit simple to me. I could read where the ball was going to go and where it was going to break. And then it was distribution from there. So that's the kind of role that I played. Jim Steins was on our team, who went on to play Australian rules. And I grew up with him. We played the same team the whole way through. And he played midfield. And being 6'6", even at 16, 17 years of age, the ball was always breaking off him because the other team always used to play to stop him catching the ball in midfield. So I was able to read exactly where the ball was going to break. And
you were picking up the scraps?
Picking up the scraps and distributing them. Yeah, exactly, that kind of role, yeah.
And then obviously it's been well documented with your knee and stuff. And you broke your kneecap at 19.
Yeah, that was...
And it was just a total change of course from there?
Yeah, at the time it was a devastating blow, really was, to be... I mean, I really felt I was being fast-tracked towards playing senior level. I was playing senior club level at that stage. And I was really determined to play for Dublin. That's what I was going to head for.
You were quite academic as well.
I wouldn't say I was quite academic, but I was good. I got by,
you were going to uni and you were and that was kind of going to be your life as such, really.
Yeah, business was going to be my thing. I enjoyed business. I always did, still do. And I was doing college of marketing. And my first year of college, I was training in September, and that's when I had my foot in the hole on the blow of a whistle. Anybody who plays football, you blow the whistle, you turn and you sprint, and it was kind of that, running sideways and then blow the whistle, you turn and sprint, and my foot got caught in a stump on the ground and basically twisted it. All the power went onto that knee, and yeah, it was a lot of pain, and 6 months in crutches, yeah. So
Paul, did you take that determination from the fact that your GAA career was now over into, you know, the golf, maybe something you didn't really want to do, and all of a sudden you start winning things and it took off?
Yeah, it kind of evolved, to be honest. My golf career kind of evolved because I didn't set out at that stage straight after I got injured to say, right, I'm going to be a golfer now. Right. It kind of evolved that way. For the first time in my life, I was playing golf 12 months of the year as opposed to just 3 months. So during the winter, I used to play. My dad was a member in Baltray, and I used to go up to Baltray and play in the winter leagues up there. And then I would go back to college and finish my college. And it was my kind of golf just improved slowly and gradually.
But you've always had a great work ethic, really.
I enjoy getting better.
Right.
That's what I enjoyed. I enjoyed getting better, and you know, I'd caddy for my dad in these championships, and my goal was really to play in these championships. Never mind win one, just play in them. So I was always very. My goals were very low. You know, I wasn't going to be a Rory McIlroy straight away.
Okay. Did you find that made you a little more practical about getting better, rather than, you know, you didn't have those, you know, lucid dreams when you were a kid of wanting to be on tour? You were just, this is a process. I'm getting closer and closer, and I'll keep at it.
Well, probably what it did was it took pressure off myself, not knowing that I was doing it. Looking back on it now, I was playing with no pressure because I wasn't trying to be a professional golfer. Okay. I was trying to be a good golfer just to play in one of the championships, the amateur championships. And, you know, my goal was to be a businessman. I was at college doing marketing, and that was where I was heading, and that's what I was interested in. And golf was a bit of fun that I did. Right. And I didn't have huge lofty goals at that stage. It was a case of this is great. It's great, a bit of fun that I'm actually playing good and I'm getting better. And then I was as good as my dad, and then I could beat my dad, and then it was playing in the championship, and you know, that was a big thrill. My first time I played in the championship.
Because the amateur scene was great fun on those days. Really, there was so many good characters, and you know, nowadays it's a lot more serious because the kids are a lot more professional and stuff. But you did aspire to the Walker Cup in '91 in Portmarnock, which was a fantastic week. I actually caddied against you the first day. I don't know if you can remember. You were probably busy enough.
Damien McGrain caddy for me. That's what I remember. Yeah.
You were busy enough with JC.
You always batted for either side, Murph.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what was that experience like?
Well, that was great. I mean, my injury playing football and going to college kind of corresponded with me joining the Grange as well too.
Okay.
Before that, I was a member in Nace, and when we played during the summers, and now I had a golf course on my doorstep as well in the Grange, which is only sort of half a mile from where I live, so I could walk up and walk back, up through the Hermitage and back down to where we lived, and clubs in my back, and a whole new world opened up for me. A practice ground, and not have to go to the spa well, and then, you know, a brilliant golf course that the Grange was, and then a whole load of new friends as well too, that I'd met through golf, who played a lot up there. Leslie Walker, Dave Walker, Ray Roach,
Shawsey, sure.
Brian Shaw, of course, Plunkett Walsh, who's a captain now this year, and we play golf every day. That was kind of how things evolved, and competitiveness started. And Leslie was very good. He was much better than me, and then he won the British Boys, and we had a very good team there, Aer Lingus team, and Donald Moriarty, Micheál Moriarty's brother, was the head of the juniors there, and he was just brilliant. He introduced me to staying in hotels for the first time. When we used to go away for the Grange, we used to stay in the best hotel in town, wherever it was, and eat steaks every night, and we used to get 3 new balls and a glove for every round we played, and this was like, wow, we really landed big time. But Donald used to always justify, don't worry about the club, we'll get the green pennant and that'll take care of that. So that's where I was starting to get competitive now, because I was starting to see we were good. We started winning these, won the Leinster section, we won the Irish section, and then Leslie was having a lot of success, and that drove me on as well too. So that's kind of how it evolved, and it was kind of one step at a time. I wasn't looking way up here. The idea still at that stage of playing for Ireland, senior level for Ireland, was way off.
You won the close in '89, wasn't it?
Yeah, the close came, probably my biggest win came early. You know, the close was a real surprise. I played in Mullingar the week before. I remember I had a whole load of birdies, and a whole load of bogeys as well with it. And but the point about it was I had enough birdies to win that tournament because I'd made too many mistakes. So I'd obviously found a little bit of form. And there was a member of the Grange called Michael Toomey who was up there that week, and he had a caravan just on the side of the practice ground there. There was a caravan park, and I spent a lot of time with him that week, and that was very good for me as well too. And a real focus. I got a real focus that week, and the more the tournament went on, the more I became really focused. My toughest game, actually, probably was the very first game I played. I think it was Brian or Frank O'Carroll from City of Derry in the first round. I just about beat them. They should have beaten me. And after that, I kind of won most of my games handily enough because I was playing really well. And that was a huge win. To break through like that and to springboard straight into the Irish team was a big thing. And then not alone that, I was playing #1 in the home internationals because I was Irish champion. And that was a great honour and great for the club and great for Grange. And that was... now I'm starting to think, things are changing, things are happening for me. Actually, I could be quite good at this game. And now I'm starting for the first time to think possible professional, but it was still a long distance off. So I sat down, I thought about it. I'd worked for a year at this stage. I worked 6 months in the EC in Brussels and 6 months in an investment company in Dublin. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'm good enough to be, but I don't know yet. So I thought the best way to do it would be try and get a scholarship in America. And I wrote away to all the universities, and they all wrote back and basically said no, because A, you're too old, and B, you're not good enough. At that stage, I'm 22. Except one guy in San Diego says, look, I'll take a chance with you. And the university gave me credits for what I did in Ireland. So I could get a second degree, 2.5 more years, and I could get a second degree in international business. And that's what I went. And the luckiest thing that's happened to me in my career was the coach I had in America was phenomenal. He's one of the guys that started the TaylorMade company. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he was a real character. He was a man of very few words, but when he spoke, everybody listened. He had that kind of authority about him. And what he kept doing, because I was like a sponge, I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to learn about golf clubs, I wanted to learn about bounce on the club, I wanted to learn about technique, I wanted to change this. I wanted to change everything about me to make really give myself a go at being a pro.
Right.
And he was no. He kept pushing me in this direction and leaving my swing alone and not letting me work on my swing.
That's unusual, really, isn't it?
Yeah, very, yeah. That's what made him so special.
Right.
And he kept pushing me, no. I said, well, my swing's a bit long and I'm a bit short at the top. And no, he wouldn't let me go down that road. And he kept pushing me, changing little things like ball position. My grip was changed a little bit.
Why do you think that was?
It was just brilliant coaching.
Right.
He saw the talent that I had.
Because it's the reverse nowadays, isn't it? Almost.
It's the reverse nowadays, yes, it is. And that's what makes Irish guys, I think, so special, is that we do, a lot of the idiosyncrasies that we do have as players, like Graham McDowell comes to mind straight away. He works around that rather than changes it, and that's very admirable. You know, I had a great grounding in Ireland. David Kinsley was my very first coach before I joined the Grange, and he gave me great basics and fundamentals, and he was exactly the same way. He wouldn't let me change my little bit short at the top of the driver, and he said, no, that's not the problem, you know. And it was more about my swing path and getting that online. And that's what a coach in America did. So I was very fortunate that I had people along the way who didn't want to change me. As much as I wanted to change myself, they wouldn't let me. And that was very fortunate from my point of view, because as you say, a lot of coaches would have done the opposite.
Next on the cut line, the difficult path to the top as a professional golfer.
You know, there's a number of branches that I went up in my career that, looking back on it now, I wish I'd never had done. Right. Luckily, none of them were ever fatal. But a lot of players do. They go up the wrong road.
We were chatting to Padraig earlier and to Shane, and they both said like their fast start made a big difference in their careers. Do you think that it helped you a lot, the fact that you didn't really have any major scar tissue, that you were up and running pretty quick?
Yeah, probably did. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you went through the other side of it where it took you a while before you got on tour, and I don't know. And I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far down the road I would have gone not being successful before I said, you know what, forget it. I've got well qualified here in business and I can do. I don't know how far I would have gone down. But to be honest, I was being very well advised by Chubby as well too. Looking back on the advice he gave me now, he managed me extremely well back in those formative years. Every step I made, I remember when I did go to the tour school and I got my card, then he packed me off down to South Africa. Myself and Darren went down and we spent 5 weeks there, 2 weeks before Christmas, 3 weeks after. It wasn't part of the European Tour at the time, but he wanted us playing as pros. We roomed together, we ate together, we practiced together. We did it all, and that was, again, a huge learning experience, because not alone was I now playing as a pro, but I was learning from Darren. Yeah. So again, I was in a stable that I was really well managed, and every step I made was the right step, and it was a small step.
Did it help the fact that you were, you know, comrades as such in the amateur scene, and then you're kind of doing the same thing in the pro scene? Yeah.
I mean, we'd never played for Ireland together. Right. I only played for Ireland after Darren left, so I didn't really know Darren that particularly well. I knew him reasonably well, but not particularly well. But
he'd all the fancy gear in those days, didn't he?
Yeah, Darren's always been the same. Even when he was an amateur with no money, he used to have all the best gear and everything. Yeah, he's never changed. His personality has not changed, and you know, as you say, the public image of Darren and the real Darren are two different things. You know, there's nobody more dedicated and works harder at the game than Darren.
What was it like then to start getting in teams, you know, the Dunhill, you know, back to team events again? You know, you're kind of a stepping stone, and then you go in your first tournament in Austria.
Yeah, well, my second year on pro was a huge year for me, because I made the World Cup team and I made the Dunhill Cup team. So the World Cup team, I played at Rafferty. We played in Lake Nona. And he just after winning the Order Merit, I think, the year before. So he was a big star in the game at the time. So again, that was a huge step for me to beat all the other cars and qualify ahead of them to make.
Right.
So that was a huge step. And also the Dunhill Cup team, I played with Faherty and Rafferty as well too, and myself. And that again, that was a huge thing for me. I remember we played Zimbabwe the first round, which is really tough. It was Tony Johnson, Mark McNulty, and Nick Price was their team, and I beat McNulty in the 23rd hole in the crunch match to get us through. And those kind of things were adding to my confidence the whole time.
Yeah, because you're straight into the big league, really, aren't you?
Straight into the big league,
and you're
yeah.
performing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're reinforcing yourself all the time.
Exactly. I was really ramping it up there, and as I say, not just to make the team, but to actually qualify ahead of the Darcys and the Smiths and the O'Connors, who were well renowned in the team and well seasoned at that stage, and to qualify ahead of all those and make the team in my second year was a big step. Yeah.
What was it like making your first breakthrough then? Was that extra reinforcement again?
Yeah, I was a little bit frustrated. I'd had a few chances to win and didn't take them for one reason or another. I think once or twice I might have let opportunities slip that I should have taken care of. Then other situations, guys came through, shot lights out back nine, beat me, and I remember playing well in France and not winning.
What's the difference between someone coming up on the rails and nabbing you and letting one go?
Letting one go hurts so much. Oh man, you're so mad. You're so mad, even though you got a big fat check in your back pocket for coming second. To let it really hurts, And certainly for me it does, and the legacy goes on for a few weeks afterwards.
And how much do you think it stands to you though when you actually do win, or do you think that's a bit of a myth?
It's a little bit of a myth, to be honest. I mean, you want to get that win. The difficulty for me is getting the fact that you've screwed up out of your system,
right?
And going ahead and being professional the next week and still being up for it, and not having the legacy in your head of, oh, I messed up last week, let's not do it this week, or next time you got in contention, not having that legacy. As Arnold Palmer said, I remember when I was a kid reading, the greatest gift a golfer can have is the ability to forget.
Yeah, of course.
And that's such a big thing in the professional game and in any part of the game. But I employed a good caddy, Edinburgh Jimmy. He's actually still caddy for me now, and he was a big help in getting me over the line on my first win.
Yeah.
I shot 62 the last round, come from 8 behind to win by a shot in Austria. That February we were playing in Australia, and I played great in Australia. Played really well. Right down the stretch I played well. And Woozy Birdie the last time, it beat me by a shot. But I'd done nothing wrong there. I'd played really well. I was maybe 2 under for the last 7 holes, done everything I needed to do, and Woozy came along and birdied.
Was the Heineken, was it?
That was the Heineken, in Perth. Yeah, that was a big thing. Edinburgh Jimmy played a big part in me getting over the line because he reinforced it. He'd be the first man to criticise.
Yes, of course.
And
I'm sure
as you know, he's caddy for you. And he was the opposite after that. He said, don't worry, you have it what it takes to win on tour. It's a matter of time before this happens. Now that coming from Edinburgh Jimmy, that's a massive compliment. Anybody who knows him.
Your biggest win was probably the Volvo Masters, but one that really set you up was Wales in 2001. Yeah,
that was very important. That got me in the Ryder Cup team for the first time. And I was kind of lucky, to be honest. I mean, it was shortened to 36 holes. And I remember the playoff, I was extremely nervous because I knew the importance of it, and I knew that even though it was 36 holes, they're going to be paying, I think they were paying 3/4 of the money, so it was still a huge check, and I knew that check would be enough to get me enough points to make the Ryder Cup team. So Darren Lee and Paul Laurie I was playing in the playoff, and I knew the importance of it because the difference between winning and then joint second on 3/4 of the money was quite significant. So I needed the points, and you probably know better than I do. 3 or 4 holes playoff, was it?
Yeah, it was the par 3 down the hill, wasn't it?
Yeah, down the hill. We kept playing the same hole. It was the only hole that wasn't waterlogged. It was a 3-iron, 2-iron down the hill. Pin was front left over the bunkers, and that hole is still there now when they redeveloped the course.
Yeah, it still saved. Yeah, it still survived the chop.
That hole survived, yeah.
It's funny though, because as you say, with that, that win money-wise or tied second, like the difference in money could be another 2-3 months of golf, really, couldn't it?
That's right, yeah. For me, it was very important because this was now July, August. No, it was actually, pretty much August. So it was only about 3 weeks left in the Ryder Cup points. And to make that big a check with only 3 points, 3 weeks to go, propelled me from sort of sweating the last few weeks of 12th to 13th, 14th, hoping to make it for the first time, which is always difficult, to actually being in the team and being in the team comfortably and not really being able to be knocked out. So I knew the importance of it before the playoff, and hence my nervousness with it. And but it was great to come through it and to hit the shots that I did.
Yes. I think historically on the European Tour, Valderrama's a special place. End of season, finale, you know, everyone who's anyone is there. And what was the feeling like to, you know, Porrick pipped you a couple of years earlier, but to win?
Darren pipped me as well too.
And Darren, yeah.
I played both well on both occasions, and they came strongly on the last day and just pipped me. So I nearly won it twice before that.
Your kind of course again too, really, isn't it?
My kind of course, yeah. And the interesting thing about that was, it came in the back. Well, like I said earlier, you know, sometimes it took me a while to recover from not winning when I should have won. And 2 or 3 weeks before that, I should have won the World Match Play here. Michael Campbell beat me in the final.
Yes, I remember that.
36-hole final. I was never up, and I played unbelievable, probably the best golf of my life to get to the final. Didn't play great in the final, but still played decent enough. But it was a 36-hole final. Michael Campbell was US Open champion. He was full of confidence. I never got up against them. I was 3 down most of the day, and I got him back to level, playing the 11th in the afternoon. And then he birdied 12, and I bogeyed 15 and bogeyed 16, and the game was over. And I just felt like bogeys on 15 and bogeys on 16. You know, when I crawled my way back into it, that really hurt. Probably the most disappointing thing that's ever happened to me in golf was not winning that, because I felt I played well enough that week to win that tournament. So to come back as shortly as I did afterwards and then correct that with a win in Valderrama was obviously very pleasing. And
beating Sergio as well, who was kind of, you know, the local favourite.
Sergio and Monty. Yeah, they were very strong the last day. They were ahead of me in the last day going out. I was playing in front of them. And again, you know, I've had periods in my career where I've played faultless golf, and that was pretty much it as well too. You mentioned the Oki.
Yeah.
Again, the World Match Play here as well too, and Valderrama spring to mind, where, you know, I played three rounds without having a bogey. That's what I did in Valderrama. I played 3 rounds without having a bogey, which anybody who's played there in tournament conditions, that's pretty good. All right.
I don't think I got 3 minutes in Valderrama without having a bogey.
Yeah, it was.
Well, what do you think that is though? Is that a mental state of mind, or do you think physically you have it in the slot?
For me, it's been physical. I mean, obviously the mind is important as well too.
Right.
For me, it's the quality of shots when I see it. Yeah, for me, it's technique is very important for me. And the better my technique is, whether it's around in Sunnydale, around in Wentworth, or around the Grange, wherever it is, if I've got it and I'm hitting the shots that I'm seeing, I feel I can do it forever and ever. Unfortunately, that feeling doesn't stay all the time.
I know.
It comes and goes.
At least it's come out here, that's the main thing.
Yeah, that's what it is for me. Is it's not a visualization. And when I'm playing good golf, I have a lot of feel about what I'm doing in my swing.
Okay.
You know, a lot of golfers actually don't know. I mean, I know I spoke to Tiger once, and he talks about sometimes under severe pressure, he tees the ball up and he looks up and next of all the ball's in the air. He's no recollection of hitting it. You know, that kind of blackout. I've never experienced that. Mine is very much feel. I can actually nearly control right down at impact where the club head is in terms of 1 degree open, 1 degree shut or square.
Wow.
That's how much feel I have when I'm playing well, yeah. And the same with the height of the ball. I can feel I can control it within 5 or 10 feet as to what height it's going to go in.
So would you play strongly on technical thoughts then?
No, more feel.
Right.
Not really technical, it's feel. Yeah, it's awareness of the club head and awareness of what I'm doing. And I'm just so convinced I've great clarity in what I'm doing, that I know if I make this movement, I'll get that result. And when that result matches the movement I've made, I get more confident the next shot I'm going to do the same thing.
Flows and flows.
Yeah, same with my putting. And that, I've always been that way. Everybody's different, but that's what's worked for me.
Yeah, it's funny because, as you say, everyone is different, and everyone's looking for the secret. But there's a huge sway now towards the mental side.
There is, yeah.
But it's peculiar that you say that.
Well, there's a big sway that way, and to be honest, I went down that road. I went down that road, and you know, and I followed that road, and of trying not to feel my swing without any success. And you know, it's only now and looking back on my career, I think, God, you know, there's a number of branches that I went up in my career that, looking back on it now, I wish I'd never had done.
Right.
Luckily, none of them were ever fatal, but a lot of players do. They go up the wrong road, and I feel there's a lot I've learned through the game, and this is why I go back to my original coach in San Diego, you know, just pushing me along. And he used to give me a new glove every week, and he had the words KISS on the back, keep it simple, stupid. And he used to put that in pen himself on the back of it, because it was he just keep pushing me away, get better competitively, understand your game better. You know, don't worry about the club being a little bit shut here. Don't worry about that. Yeah. That's not going to be fatal to you. what's fatal to you is you think that it's fatal.
Yeah.
So that's for me. You know, everybody's different, and I know Pádraig would have a very different view, and because when he plays the game, his view is very much, again, he doesn't feel much in the swing. It's seeing the target, being into the target and all that. To be honest, I've never played my best golf with no feel in my swing. For me, it's got to be feel. And everybody's different. Mm-hmm. And I just wish I had pursued that more in my career rather than trying to always look for that new X factor that you think, oh, well, there's a new move or there's a new mental thing that I can do to maybe bring you to another level.
Why do you think that is, that guys and top players, you know, even Tiger is an example, he's on his third swing change as such. Why, you know, Jack never seemed to do it. He seemed to just, Tom Watson never seemed to do it. But the modern thing is to, you know, Shane Lowry said it to us earlier, which was very true. You know, just because it's the winter time doesn't mean that you have to go change things.
That's right.
Which I was so happy to hear him say that.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like a fantastic maturity. You know, whereas 90% of pros think, oh, winter time, got to get it more laid off or whatever the case may be. But it's a peculiar sport for that.
Absolutely right, and that's exactly right. And here you are now talking from the outside, looking back in, and you can see it so clearly. And yet when you were playing, you would have practiced hard during the winters, and I know I did myself. This winter just gone by, you know, I had a small procedure on my knee before Christmas, and I didn't play for 7 weeks. That's the first time in about 5 years I didn't have a winter of practicing, either working on my fitness or working on my game or on my swing. And to be honest, I feel so much better for it. I'm so fresh now. In the tournaments I've played this year, I've really competed well because there's a freshness about me. Yeah. And I look back in the last 4 or 5 years, and the more my position in the order of merit fell down, the harder I worked. And looking back and again now, I wish I'd have just stepped back and looked at it and, as you say, go along the lines of what I do rather than trying to change the world.
I always remember at tour school, I'd never practice after I played because it's a long week, it's 6 rounds, you're probably there for 10 days, 11 days in total, you know, and you're trying to conserve energy. And you go out with almost no swing thoughts the next day, you just loosen up and go play. But you're at a tour event, you're playing rubbish, and you think, oh, I have to do 2-3 hours, I have to try find something.
Tom Watson's always been my hero as a player, and I had a chance to play with him one of the first US PGAs I played in a practice round. I walked around onto the first tee at 6:30 in the morning, jet lagged, and there was Tom Watson on his own with Bruce Edwards as caddy at the time. And I said to him, would you mind if I join you? I'm Paul McGinley, I'm from Ireland. He said, Irishmen are always welcome in my company. And we played with 18 holes, and I got on great with him, and still do to this day. And I learned so much from that one practice round. And one of the things he said to me is exactly what you said. I never became successful at the game until I stopped practicing after my rounds. Really? That's one of the things he said to me. He said, I stopped practicing, I used to go back to my room, and I used to think about my round. I used to think, why did I hit it right there? What was I doing? What was I thinking? Was that bad mental mistake? Was it a bad physical mistake? And then I'd have it corrected, and then I'd go out and have dinner, have a nice evening, come back the next day, I was fresh. I went onto the range, I knew what I had to work on, boom, boom, and off I went again. And he said, as a result, I became a lot more competitive. I wasn't wasting my time and my energies in the middle of a tournament, practicing and wearing myself out. And that was one of the things I've learned from him, and that's, again, one of the reasons why I've never been a massive practicer during tournament play. If you ever see me practicing hard at a tournament,
you're playing rubbish. I'm
playing terrible. I'm really struggling. The better I play, the less I practice. And you talked earlier about me rushing to the first tee, and because that's what I feel like. When I'm playing well, some of my best golf has been 15 minutes practice before I go out. Bit of stretching, 15 minutes, and I'm like a greyhound at the box trying to scratch to get in the first tee because I'm competitively, I'm juiced up and I'm ready to go. And that's when I'm at my best. And I'm at my worst when I'm fatigued, tired, a bit confused about my golf swing, not really sure what I'm doing, and as a result, my competitiveness is all gone. So much of what I do is based around competitiveness, and probably why match play has been better for me because it's a short window, it's a sprint, and I've always enjoyed because I'm forced to concentrate for that quick because I know I get away to a bad start and going to lose. So probably my match play record is based around the fact that I know it's.
You're like a little terrier and you stay in there.
I want it, and the long drawn out 5.5 hour rounds that we play now on tour sometimes, and 4 round tournaments and the Pro-Am before and a practice round on Tuesday. I just wish again throughout my career I'd have acknowledged that I'm that kind of person, and I'm not a person who can spend, 5.5 hours and practice before, practice after, do my gym work, do my pro-am, do the practice rounds. And I just wish I'd worked around me and what suited me better rather than conforming to what everybody else was doing.
Coming up on the cut line, that famous putt at the Belfry and Ryder Cup glory.
No matter what else I do in the game of golf, it's probably the thing I'll always be remembered for.
Paul, if we could talk about the Ryder Cup. We're here in Wentworth today in the Ryder Cup room, and you're all over the place. You had a funny experience, your first experience, in the sense that, you know, it was supposed to happen in 2001, and then obviously with 9/11 in New York, and you were in the, you know, in the middle of a fantastic season, and then it gets deferred a year later, and you were struggling for form really going into that tournament. What was that whole experience like?
It was obviously a daunting experience playing your first Ryder Cup. When normally when you play a Ryder Cup, anybody who does, you make the team, you qualified in September, beginning of September, and 3 weeks later you actually teeing it up. So you're going on the back of form that's been very strong throughout the season because they've made the team in the first place. That wasn't the case, obviously, in 2002 for the reasons you just said with the 9/11. So my form had gone down. I hadn't gone drastically down, but I was probably 40th in the automatic compared to top 10 in the automatic. Playing the first Ryder Cup, and I remember there was a world event on in Mount Juliet that week, and myself and Lee were the only two out of the 12 players who hadn't qualified for that world event. So Sam took us up to, that was the week before the Ryder Cup, and Sam took us up to the Belfry, and we played a practice round with him, Sam Torrance, who was the captain, and just to go there and see the stands already and see the magnitude of what a Ryder Cup is and was and is was quite daunting, but it was also a great experience because Sam's captain be great that week. The reason why I had a great week, Sam's captaincy, his man management of me personally was fantastic, and that's, you know, he got back what he put in. He recognised who I was and what I did, and he saw a lot of things about myself that didn't even know myself. Coming back in the car on the way back from the Belfry, he had a driver and two of us sitting in the back seat, and he told me the whole plan for the week. Who was going to play with who, what role I was going to play, what role Monty was going to play, Padraig, Darren, who they're going to play with, what his whole plan was for the week. And to be showing a rookie like me that kind of responsibility that had a big effect on me, because I really felt part of that team then, that he was trusting me and letting me know the cog that I was going to play in the big overall wheel. For me, that sense of responsibility was very important, and immediately I had a massive loyalty towards him. And then there were other several things he did during the week as well too. Looking back on it now, was very clever. He was very clever as to how he managed me.
As the week, you know, obviously starts with the hype and stuff, and then you actually, is that quite tiring at the start before you actually get into the, you know, the first day's play as such? Is it hard to, you're chomping at the bit ready to go? Yeah,
your adrenaline is so high though. Your adrenaline all week, you know, even though it's a busy week and you got your gala dinners and your functions and all that kind of stuff to go to, and you're changing clothes 3 times a day for different reasons. You wake up in the morning, you're knackered, and then you realise you're at the Ryder Cup. And within 5 minutes, the adrenaline's kicked in, and you go down to the team room, everybody's flying, the adrenaline's kicking in, and as I say, I always really enjoyed being part of a team, and I had the catalyst of being involved in a team igniting me every morning as well too.
So different to a regular tournament.
So different, because the buzz was there. You don't have to create it; it's there. You just look out the windows in the morning, you see thousands of people milling around. At 7:30 on the morning of the singles, the stand was packed outside our by the 18th green, and it was packed. There wasn't a spare seat. You know, considering the first match was off at 11 o'clock, you know, that brings, you know, that gives you a burst of adrenaline straight away.
It can work in reverse too. It can scare the life out of some people too, really, can't it?
Yeah, of course. It's a very daunting thing. But, you know, when you're a sports person, that's what, it's like a drug. That's what it is for you. That to be in that position. And, you know, people say about situations I've been in Ryder Cup, and obviously that one holding the putt, you know, you must have been extremely nervous. Of course I was nervous, no doubt I was nervous, but it was always there was also a huge sense of excitement, real excitement. You know, when your stomach is just so excited about what's going to happen, and hold a putt or not, I had that excitement, and that's it was a great place to be mentally.
Do you think the half with Darren on the Saturday was a help going into the singles on Sunday?
It was a huge help, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely huge help, yeah. To have gone up the 18th green, every other game had finished, and we'd played great, and I'd played particularly well the last 7 holes. Darren was a great partner that week. Or that round, he was awesome. He just really played great, and to have him as a partner and how confident he was in that position as well gave me confidence. Yeah. And for me to be only one to make par in the 18th and win the hole and get a half, and then psychologically for the team to go into the singles now level was huge. If we'd have halved that hole and lost one down, Europe was 1 point behind going into the singles, which, you know, historically the Americans have been always very strong in the singles, and that was a very strong American team, and we were really up against the 8 ball if I hadn't made a par in that hole. And also the way it evolved to the fact that Darren had hit the shortest tee shot, and that Sam wanted me to hit first to put the Americans under pressure, even though my drive was the longest. They hit the shot that I did in front of everybody, and the noise and the crowd went up. They hit such a great 4-iron shot into a crosswind, and you know, all that kind of thing. Of course, that's just constantly building me up. But I'll keep going back to Sam's man management the whole way around.
It started in the car almost, didn't it?
It started in the car, yeah. But I look back on it now, and he knew me better than I knew myself. Right. That's what makes a great captain. Yeah. And what he did was he knew how to set my fire every day, and he knew what to say to me, and he knew what not to say to me. Yeah.
Which is as important at times.
Yeah,
really,
and he could see me thriving on the responsibility of being in the team, and he played to that. He gave me responsibility. He could see that I wanted that responsibility, and that I reacted positively when I did get responsibility.
And what was the putt like? I mean, you know, the famous putt against Furyk. Did it feel like it was going to be a defining moment in your career almost before you hit it, or you know, what was going through your head before you?
I walked by Furyk's ball in the bunker and saw that the ball had pitched and rolled out of it, and it was sitting perfect on a slight upslope. And I knew it was a bread and butter bunker shot, that he was going to stiff it. So I knew I had to get up and down. And Sam had told me as I crossed the bridge. So all I wanted to do was give myself a putt. So the chip shot was very difficult. It was in what we call a bird's nest. You know, the ball was sitting in the middle of grassy, all around it was difficult. All I wanted to do was just get it on the green and give myself a putt, which I did, and I got it to the 12 feet, 15 feet, whatever it was. Furyk duly hit a great bunker shot, which nearly went in. I didn't realise that until that night.
On the video, you could see.
Yeah, I didn't realise that till we watched it that night.
It should have gone in almost. Yeah.
It should have gone in. It actually hit the hole.
I think there was probably too many tricolours around the green for it to go in. Right?
Too many people, Irish people blowing it away, Europeans. So the other thing about Furyk's bunker shot was, again, if you look in the video, it went about 15 inches past, and he had a downhill 15-incher. And I looked at it and I thought, he could miss that. And then I had a thought come into my head. Where it came from, I don't know. Maybe go back to the amateur days again of, no, give him the putt, clear the decks. You're either going to hold it or you're not. You don't want to be standing over your putt thinking, well, if I miss, he might miss. So I gave it to him. And I remember him looking at me twice as he's bending down. Kind of, are you sure? I said, take it away, Jim, take it away. He took it away. And then as we walked around with JP looking at it, as I walked around once, I saw the putt. I saw it. I saw what I had to do. I saw the line. I saw the speed. I felt it. And as JP is starting to blabber away to me, I'm saying, I have it. Yeah. And he starts talking. I said, JP, I have it. In other words, get out of the way. Yeah. Which he duly did, and he got out of the way. And as I stood over it, it was just routine. Over, bum. And again, going back to what I said earlier about the feel, it was a left to right putt. And it was probably about a cup and a half outside left, so it was a big swinger. And the feel I had in my stroke, I actually hooked that putt into the slope. I drew it into the slope. That's how much feel I had about what I was doing. Now, the question people ask me, did I know I was going to hold it? No, I didn't know I was going to hold it. But I knew one thing I was going to do. I was going to hit a great putt. Yeah. And I knew I was going to hit a great putt.
That's all you can do, really, isn't it?
And that made me feel good no matter what. So the consequences, if I hadn't have gone in, actually weren't that bad for me because I knew I was going to make a great effort. Yeah. and I hit this putt, and it just, you know, as putts go, it can't be any purer. It came out of the middle of the putter. It rolled at a perfect speed, and as I looked up, it was about 2 foot from the hole, tracking that way, and there was just no way in the world it could miss. And if you could dissect the hole on the line it was coming, you couldn't have dissected it any better. So as it goes in the hole, I put my arms in the air, and I'm thinking, why isn't anybody jumping on top of me at this stage? Because at this stage I could hear the sound and the noise, and I actually had the thought, maybe it slipped out. Maybe it didn't go in, because I'm wondering why the rest of my team are not on top of me at this stage. And then as I looked around, I saw Sergio jumping up and down, and then I started to jump up and down. And then Darren and Heather came on, and that was it. But then if you look at it in real time, it's like 1 second from the minute I hold it to when they're actually on top of me. But for me, time actually stood still.
Really?
And I actually had that thought. When I'm looking here, I'm an idiot. Maybe it's because the hole's over there. Maybe it hasn't gone in. Why are they not on top of me?
Panic attack.
And as I looked across, I saw Sergio jumping up and down, and that's what set me off on that stupid jump that I was doing.
Yeah, you have to. I'm sure you've worked on that, did you?
If you look at it, there's a great picture actually. It won all kinds of awards. The guy took it from the back of the stand on top of the BBC, where this BBC camera was way up higher than the stand.
Right.
And he took a panoramic one, and I'm in the centre of it with the hospitality and the crowds up the 9th and the crowds up the 16th, and it's an amazing photograph. And I was, if you look at it, I was way up in the air. I really was high, really
like
was high.
Jim Steins maybe in the middle
of God, I jumped really high.
Have you gone like into a totally different sphere at this stage? You're kind of rookie Ryder Cup player, winning putt. You know, your life's kind of changed overnight, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, as much success as you did have up to this point, this is a whole new level, really, isn't it?
Well, it did. You know, looking back on it now, I came back and I was living in Sunnydale here at the time, and Gary Lineker was a neighbour of ours, and I met him the following day. He came up to the house and he said, "This is going to change your life." And I looked at him and I thought, no, not really. It's only a putt. It's only the Ryder Cup. I didn't realise the magnitude of it. Looking back on it now, obviously the magnitude is there. And then later that year, I was at a links do Cecil Whelan was doing in Dublin, and Doug Sanders was the guest of honour. And I was at the bar before waiting to get called out, and Doug Sanders came over to me and he said, "Nice to meet you." And he said, "You know what, me and you are going to have something in common for the rest of our lives." And I said, "What was that?" He said, "We're both going to be famous for putts. You for holding, me for missing." And I thought, wow, what a humble thing for him to say.
Yeah.
And he's actually right. You know, no matter what else I do in the game of golf, it's probably the thing I'll always be remembered for.
After the break, chasing a record win at the 2004 Ryder Cup.
It was fist on the table. I just don't want to win this. I want to annihilate the Americans. I want the record. And it changed the whole tone of everybody. You know, all of a sudden the beers were pushed to the side and everybody was sitting up straight in the seat. And there was a real seriousness about Langer. There was no way he was going to let us slack off.
Obviously, you had the elation of being the rookie in 2002, holding the winning putt, and now you're 2004 season campaigner as such, and you're put out to kind of mind Luke Donald, the first day, who's obviously gone on to be world #1. How's the different role playing there for you?
That was a big difference. I look back in the 3 that I played so far, and that's the one in Detroit is the one I actually probably enjoyed the most, even though 2006 was in the K Club in my home country, and 2002 was the one where I hold a winning putt. But the one I enjoyed the most was 2004, and I feel I played a huge role in that team.
Right.
A big anchoring role in that team. I was unbeaten. I won all my games, and it was phenomenal. it was a phenomenal week. We won by a record margin in America. And again, for me, that sense of responsibility that Langer gave me, again, ignited me. And I reacted very positively to that responsibility they gave me, which was, as you say, playing with Luke the first day and the first morning. And he had a word in my ear about why he wanted me to play and why he was putting me with Luke.
How different was that experience from the fact that the Belfry was so tight and, you know, Detroit was almost a whitewash, really? Even though it's always a lot closer than it seems on, you know, when you can look at the results and go, you know, it was a huge landslide victory, but there was still a serious amount of golf that had to be played to get to that stage where you can amass such a big total.
There was, yeah, and it was very much, I remember we were leading by 2 or 3 points going into the singles. Maybe more, maybe 4 points. So we had a substantial lead. And the floor, we had the whole floor in the hotel. And at the end of the floor was a business room with a big long business table, which was our team meeting room every day. And Langer was always last into the room, and he sat at the top, obviously, and Monty always sat at the other end, and all the players sat along the side, and the vice captains. And I remember on a Saturday night we were chuffed.
You just taken out Tiger as well, hadn't you?
Yeah, myself and Paul again. That was a special moment, yeah. As an Irishman, that was a really special moment. Probably, I nearly go as far as to say is that was more special than holding the winning putt, because it was being Irish in the heartland of America, in Detroit, and everybody around that green was Irish. Yeah. And we were over an hour after the final putt went in, because we were the last game on the course again, before the Irish would let us go, you know, and they were singing, "You never beat the Irish," over and over and over. And it was just tremendous time to be Irish, yeah. But going back to that story with Langer, and I remember we were all chuffed ourselves. We were all had a bottle of beer. We were just having our team meeting. Everybody was relaxed. It was great. The day was over. We had a great lead. Obviously, we weren't going to have too many beers. We had one beer just before dinner, and it was a case of, you know, the captain's going to come in and he's going to be very happy with us, and it's going to be a great team meeting. And Langer was very aggressive in the meeting. He came in late. He slammed the door, and it was fist on the table. Wow. I just don't want to win this. I want to annihilate the Americans. I want the record. And it changed the whole tone of everybody. You know, all of a sudden the beers were pushed to the side and everybody was sitting up straighter in the seat. And there was a real seriousness about Langer. There was no way he was going to let us slack off. And again, the big role I played there in the singles was Caroline Harrington, actually, Pádraig's wife, who had a great idea. And the idea was, because the Irish contingent was so strong in terms of supporters there, that it would be great to have myself and Pádraig playing
together, or back to back,
so that the crowd could watch both games, which is a very clever thing to do, because that's the role that Langer did. Langer took it on board and did that, and we were playing down the anchor rolls, the last 2 rolls, and it was a very important. As we started out in the singles the following day, it's funny, things weren't going particularly well up front, and it was only myself and Pádraig who both started our games well, and we got blue on the board. And then all of a sudden, you know, blue started to come more around. But we played quite a big role there, because that easily could have gone like Brookline, and we could have had a ripple effect. But I think we bulked it up early in our games, and that made a difference.
So then, obviously, you know, you win your singles the next day. Stuart Sink, who I remember I did the radio at the K Club. I mean, phenomenal golfer and Open champion. Yeah. Unfortunately for Tom Watson, but you know, that's top end stuff. That's, you know, this is real world class level you're at. Yeah,
you know, I played 13 singles. I played 13 times as part of a team as a pro. Ryder Cups, Seve trophies, Royal trophies, and I never lost a singles. You know, and that's something I was very proud of. And I played some really tough competitors. The toughest guys to play are the Stuart Sinks, the Jim Furyk's. Yeah. They're the toughest guys to play, because they give you nothing. You've got to earn everything. And when you're playing it, you know, a guy like Tiger Woods, for example, you know how good he is, but you also know that he's going to make 1 or 2 mistakes. And it's always going to be a tough game, but you know that you're going to have 1 or 2 holes where if you make par, you'll probably win. Whereas with Jim Furyk's and Stuart Sinks, they give you nothing.
Yeah, you didn't really get any easy draws on those, did you?
No, I had tough. I was never a number 1 or number 2 or number 3 in the list. I was always sort of middle to bottom end of the list, but they're the kind of places you find the the dogfighters on the opposing team, and Jim Furyk and Sink would be very strong from the American side in that.
2006, the K Club. I remember discussing this with Des. You know, the weather was so amazing on the build-up to the event itself. You know, the course was absolutely perfect, and then, you know, the good old Irish weather came in. Did that, you know, detract at all from the experience for the week?
I suppose it detracted, like it did in Wales 2 years ago. It detracted more for the crowd than it did for the players.
Right.
I mean, we're closeted from all that. You know, we're in players' lounges that are very luxurious. We're in a hotel that was mega luxurious. Inside the ropes was absolutely pristine. Yeah. And it was the same in Wales 2 years ago. So it doesn't really affect the players, but it does obviously affect the crowd. And there's a sense of disappointment for that, particularly me being Irish and so proud of being Irish, and the fact that we really wanted to put on a show here. But fortunately we did. We overrode that despite the Irish spirit came through, despite all the things that were thrown in our way.
The course held up remarkably well, though, didn't it, really?
Yeah, Jerry Byrne did a fantastic job there. It was absolutely pristine. There wasn't a blade of grass out of place. Speed on the greens was great, and all the build-up the years before about, you know, the greens need to be dug up, the greens need to be this, the greens need to be that. They were absolutely perfect, so all credit.
And was that a lot more emotional, the fact that you were home? You know, you're now three-time Ryder Cup star. You know, was it another experience that was totally different to?
Well, you know, to be honest, it was a little bit like my 2002 qualification, insofar as I'd made all my points at the start of the qualifying season. You know, I'd won Valderrama the year before. I was beaten in a World Match Play here, which was a massive check in terms of points. I played well over the winter. I played well early the following year. But as the Ryder Cup came round, I'd lost my form. Right. So I was going into that Ryder Cup off form. So that made it really difficult, playing in my home country and not particularly on my game. But I knew I'd be okay. Right. I knew I'd be okay because of my experience in the past. That you know, when the bell rang on Friday morning, that whatever role I was asked to play, I would hold my own. You know, and I pretty much did. Yeah.
It was a very generous half you gave on the 18th, I have to say. I had a little bet. It cost me money. So
I think it cost a lot of people money. Nobody was more upset than the captain, was he? He's never let me forget it. You know, it was one of those things. It happened and I reacted to it. Yeah. As the guy was running on the green, I'd put it down stone dead, and I'd got my birdie. My second shot in there probably was one of the best golf shots I've ever played, actually. My 3-wood from the middle of the fairway there, right over the top of the flag to 40 feet behind the pin. J.J. Henry had laid up and he'd pitched on. He had a 25 footer. And as I rolled my putt down, he gave me the putt, and I'm walking off the green, and this streaker runs on past me. And you can actually see it if you look at the footage. You lip read what I said. And what I said was, don't run on his line. I knew what he was going to do. You know, when I played the World Match Play here, I had a streaker, but it was a female streaker here in the match play. That was a bit better. But this was, I knew what he was going to do. I know he was attention seeker. I knew what he was going to do. And as I looked around, of course, J.J. Henry's bent down behind his ball reading the putt, and the guy's doing a circle around him. And of course, he's right over his line. At that stage, Des Smith, who was vice captain, was there, and I called him over and I said, Smitty, what do you think? And probably of my whole career, Smitty, as a professional, has been my best mentor, and I've learned so much from him, and I really respected his opinion. And his opinion was based, this is too big a call for me to say, which again was good advice. You know, it was an onus was on the player, and immediately I saw it. I said, I got to give him the putt now, which is what I did. And that was the chain of events. Should I have given it to him? At the time, it was the right thing to do. Yeah. At the time, it was the right thing to do. It did cost us winning by a record margin. As it was, we tied the record margin, which we had done 2 years previously. Yeah.
What was the...
But he might have held the putt too. We never gets that, yeah.
What was the experience then like to be almost outside the ropes in 2010 at Celtic Manor as a vice captain?
Yeah, it was quite eerie, to be honest. Vice captain role is a very difficult role. I've been fortunate to be captain twice in the Seve Trophy, and that's been great. When you're a captain, it's just like being a player, if not more so. Right, okay. There's a real buzz about that, and your mind, there's a million things going through your mind. Your mind is a lot more active than when you are as a player. Because you're thinking on, you know, the Seve Trophy team, you're thinking on 10 different levels with the 10 different players, and what you're going to say to each player. what I've learned is you don't treat every player the same.
Yeah.
Every player has to be treated in a different way. And then you're matching them up and who they're going to play, and then you're also trying to read what the other team are trying to do a little bit, and so you've got a lot of things going on in your head, and you're there in a supportive role as well too. Vice captain's a different role because you're very much an understudy to the captain. The captain's the main man. I can't speak to the players in the course. I can certainly speak to the captain, and I can certainly speak to the captain away from the course, away from in terms of meetings. But when it all kicks off, I'm not really involved, and it's kind of hard to be there but not really involved, particularly when I can feel the adrenaline that the players are feeling.
And you can't speak to the players on the course?
No. Vice captains can't, no. You can say good shot, of course.
That must have been very
But there's no communication allowed, no.
Right.
Any communication has to be directed through the captain. So if I see something going on or something that I think is important to say to the players, I'll get on the radio and I'll call Monty in that case and say, this is what's happening, I think you need to go and speak to him because of A, B, C, or D, and then Monty either acts on that information or not, and it's totally his call.
Paul, it's obviously a big thing for you. You've been, a three-time Ryder Cup player and a vice captain. You've seen how the different captains work. You've worked, I guess, under 4 captains.
More than that, with Sevi trophies as well too, and Royal trophies, yeah.
Why is it such a big thing for you to try go for the captaincy or try be involved in it?
It's not that I'm going for it. I mean, people are putting me in that position, and
well, they are because of your record, and I mean, you fit the bill in the sense that you've got the playing record, which is obviously important because I can't see myself getting a pick at the moment. But and then you've consolidated that with your great record as captain in the Sevi Trophy. Do you think you've learned a lot from the people that have gone before you, and your own, inspirations as well?
Yeah, no question. As I say, the team ethic, it goes right back to the GAA days, and there's something in me about a team ethic that is a catalyst. It just fires me. Even talking to you about it now, I can feel it. I can feel my body changing. I can feel the surge of excitement inside me. I don't know what it is. You need some psychologist to analyze that. I don't know, but I can sense it. I also feel I can read. I can read what's happening. I've learned a lot over the years. Just like we're talking about climbing the tree. I feel that I look at the tree now and I see the tree a lot clearer than I would have done as I was going through in my career, and certainly starting out. I've always enjoyed it. People are putting me in that position, and it's great to be, and a great honour to be put in that position.
Yeah.
But whether it happens or not, I don't know. It's totally, anything can happen in the next 12 months. We don't know who's going to be, and there's a lot of guys who would be very worthy captains as well as me as well too. So it's not something I'm going to absolutely hang my hopes on. It's something, if it comes my way, wonderful. If it doesn't.
But do you think it's changed over the, say present day? Because it was almost like an ambassador thing, give the guy the captain. But they're almost now looking for, because Faldo, in a sense, wasn't that successful as captain. They're looking for someone to win the thing now. It's a bit like, years ago, you got in the World Cup team, but, whether you won or not didn't really matter. Whereas the Ryder Cup, they want the guy who's going to motivate the players, and you seem to have, you tick all the boxes, really.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I guess having had experience of captaining 2 teams and winning twice, and both times we won with teams that were well underdogged. Yeah. That was a real sense of acknowledging on my own mind that actually, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know. I was asked a question before the first time I captained in the Sevi Trophy. Are you looking forward to this? Something you want to do going forward? And I said, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to react as being a captain. Looking back, having done it twice now, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I got just as much of a buzz from being captain as I did being a player, and that says something.
The one question I have to ask you is, why do you seem to smile so much more playing a Ryder Cup than you do playing in a regular tour event?
I got great advice from my first one. Jesper Parnevik said it to me. There's 2 ways of dealing with a Ryder Cup in that situation. You got the energy coming from the crowd, and there is a real energy coming from the crowd. And the fact that you're on TV and it is the Ryder Cup and not, there's actually an energy. It's so strong you can nearly see it.
Yeah.
And there's 2 ways of dealing with that. You can be the Bernard Langer who's sort of really calm underneath it and just going through it and totally calm, oblivious to what's going on and doing his own thing. Or you can take that energy and ride it. And and it was great advice. I've obviously been the second one, and that's what I do. I ride it. I ride that energy from the crowd. I ride the feedback from the crowd, and ride the fact that I'm part of a team, that everybody's pulling in the same direction. And that sense of smiling and that sense of fun, that's very important. And a lot of the times that comes from the captain.
Coming up after the break, the future for Paul on and off the course.
To me, I look at the 4 majors, and I've always seen them as 4 different exam papers.
Paul, the major championships, you've had a love affair with the British Open, or Open Championship as they call it nowadays, over the years. I think 16 appearances, those little...
Did I? Right, okay. I don't
Didn't
even
know that?
No.
No, I remember one year actually, there was a qualifier in Sunningdale where you unusually had to qualify, and you were just, you know, you were so determined to get through. But what is it with the Open Championship in Paul?
I think it's probably the one that I felt I could do best in. And I love the fact that it's what we talked about earlier. It's about course management. It's about controlling your ball flight. And it's about the old-fashioned way of playing the game that we don't really play a lot nowadays. And it's always been a great tournament. The R&A make a great job. They run it brilliantly well every year. Huge crowds, great golf courses, and links courses that we were all brought up on.
It's funny because '96 was your big chance to really try get the claret jug as such, which, as Lytham would be a course that would really suit your game as much, probably more so than some of the others.
Yeah, again, it probably came, I hadn't even won on tour at that stage, and there I was, joint leader of the Open after 2 rounds, and it probably came a bit early for me in my career. I wish I had that opportunity when I was more experienced. But yeah, I mean, I never really got in the zone the way I did in some of my wins playing in the Open Championship, which was disappointing. I would love to have really got a flourish of playing, being on my game, being confident like I have been in various times throughout my career during the Open Championship, because that's the one I enjoyed the most, actually. The US Open I always found extremely difficult. I found it was relentless. The fairways, were so narrow, and the rough was so severe, and I didn't have the strength to power it out of the rough or up around the greens. I had to just chip it out every time. USPGA, I always did well in USPGAs because they were a little bit tougher than a PGA Tour event, but not as tough as US Open. It was kind of in between, and I really enjoyed that. I had a good run a few times in the USPGA Championship. And then the Masters, I really enjoyed, but then they made the golf course so difficult and so long. That
you just missed out on your first appearance? Or you just
my first appearance, I came 17th, which was pretty good. Yeah, I shot level par, which was the year of the first big changes in terms of the length.
Because I wouldn't say they ruined the course, but they changed, they changed that course totally. I mean, I went to college there and played it once. And it was all about, kind of 6, 7, 8 irons into small little postage stamp spots.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for the normal player, it's a totally different course now.
Well, that's what it was. To me, I look at the 4 majors, and I've always seen them as 4 different exam papers. You've got the Open Championship, which is very much wind, links, firm, fast fairways. Weather can be all over the place. The draw is very important. That's that kind of test. Your shot making is very important. Then you got US Open, where you've got to drive it well. You've got to have a great short game and get up and down out of the junk around the greens this height. And level par, if you shoot level par, that's going to be the score at the end of the week. Then you got the USPGA Championship, which has always been a little bit more difficult than a PGA Tour event, but you knew what that exam paper was. You had to still obviously play well. And then you had the Masters, which was basically fireworks, and that's what made it so great. They always used to say, starts the last 9 holes on Sunday. And it was fireworks because, guys were having car crashes all around the golf courses in terms of bogeys and double bogeys and triple bogeys, and yet other guys were making eagles and hole-in-ones. And that's what made it so riveting to watch on TV. And there was a period there during the 2000s when they lost that, and they turned the Masters into the exam paper of a US Open, where a guy leading going into the last 9 on Sunday, all he had to do was shoot level par and he was going to win, because nobody could come back and shoot 28 the way Nicklaus did in his day. So they lost it, but I'm glad to say now the last few years they've brought that back, and last year was a brilliant Masters again, because they brought it back. They softened up the golf course, they shortened a few of the tee boxes, and they made the greens a little bit more receptive. So as a result, guys were having eagles and guys were also having bogeys and doubles, and it made it for great excitement again. So I'm glad to say it's come back to where it was.
Of the 4 majors, which one would you say you would like to win, hopefully, the most, or to have won?
Oh, the Open is always the one for us. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the Open is something special, and you know, you look at Tom Watson at the age he is, he's still competing in it, and I'd love to have a few more goals at winning the Open Championship, yeah.
The fact that there's such a strong presence of Irish major winners at the moment, is that something that's inspiring you?
There's no doubt it makes it easier. There is no doubt about that. And I think the guys coming through now, there's no doubt that Padraig's wins in the majors, not just in an Irish sense, but in a European sense, was very important. You know, the barrier was broken down, the difficulty, the aura around winning a major championship was broken down by Padraig, and there's no doubt a lot of the success Europe has had that is because of his success, and he of the new era of players, you know, outside of the Sevies and the Langers and the Woozies, he was kind of the leader in that way in terms of winning major championships. So the aura that people place now on winning major championships is not the wow factor that we would have had when we were growing up as kids, which was basically the impossible. It was like flying to the moon way back in the days. You know, very few people did it, and the idea of an Irishman winning it would be very, very unusual. And now it's actually, you know, every time we come to a major championship, we're looking at the Irish and thinking, yeah, you know, there's no reason why 4 or 5 of the Irish can't win. So there's definitely a lot of the mystique about winning major championships has been broken down.
Yeah, it was funny because remember there was always with Jacqueline with the US Open, the last European type of thing, you know, and then Graham goes and wins it, and it was just bizarre the way it worked with, you know, Rory, Graham wins, Rory wins, and then, you know.
Well, it's not bizarre. There's no doubt. There's a mental effect going on there. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And Darren winning then on the back of Graham winning as well too, and there's no question or doubt about it. No doubt about it. That's what, you know, the barriers are broken down, it makes things easier. And I think our success in the Ryder Cup teams over the years as well too, the fact that we've gone to America and won by a record margin as we did in 2005 or 2004, and then 2006 doing the same thing again in the K Club. Again, that's breaking down barriers, just breaking down the mystique about American players, about them being absolute gods in the game. And as a result, you're having that huge success that we're having now and dominating the world rankings.
Paul, we touched a little bit about your off-the-course activities. You're, in my eyes, the new Greg Norman.
I wish.
Is that something that's always been close to your heart to get involved? Obviously, the Clubs for Hire is a, you know, phenomenal idea. Where did the brainchild from that come from?
Well, it didn't come from me, to be honest. It's kind of maybe evolved a little bit from me, but a fella called Jerry McKernan from Belfast and Tony Judge, who I went to college with in Dublin. And I kind of evolved it with them, which is, we're very fortunate. You've played on tour, you know, we've a guy called McFeet who drives around from tournament to tournament, and what we do is we pay 50 euros a week, and McFeet, when you finish on a Sunday night, McFeet has a high ace van, he backs it up to the locker room door, he takes your golf clubs, he drives through the night, and he gets to the next tournament, delivers your clubs. So you can fly home, have a night or two at home, fly back out to the next tournament, your clubs are in the locker room for the next tournament. So it's kind of evolved from that. And we've tried to extend it in so that amateurs can enjoy it as well too. And then with my relationship with TaylorMade, because when I went to college in America, TaylorMade was just starting out as well too, and the coach was one of the founder guys in TaylorMade. So my relationship with TaylorMade has been so strong for years and years. And the sales guy that our coach employed when we were there is a fellow called Mark King, who was basically the sales guy for the San Diego area. Wow. And he has now risen to be the president worldwide of TaylorMade, and of course the company is just flying. So with my relationship with TaylorMade, we obviously wanted to get them involved, and the angle that was my role within the company was to get the manufacturers on board. And the way I did that was, you know, I wanted to be a shop window for them, that, you know, people who can't afford TaylorMade clubs or people who haven't tried TaylorMade clubs can go away on holiday for a week, and based on the expensive prices that airlines charge for taking clubs, that they could rent a set of clubs cheaply and have top of the range at the same time. So it will be a shop window for the manufacturers for people to try their clubs. So that worked well, and then we got our Nikes, we got Callaways, we got everybody else involved, and it's kind of evolved from that. And now we're going to have, by April, we're going to have 12 shops open around Europe, which is all in airports, obviously. So it's growing and growing, and it's a great service for the public. We
discussed earlier with the changes in the golf courses nowadays. They're kind of the boomers, and they don't really reward a lot of accuracy and stuff and shot making. Is that why you got involved in the golf design business, to try maybe bring that back to people?
Yeah, a little bit actually, to be honest. Yeah, golf design, I'm fortunate. I've got 4 things going on in the business sense. I've got the clubs to hire, a company called Eligo, which is basically an elite golf club membership. I've got an academy down with TaylorMade down in Quinta Lago in Portugal, and then I've got my golf design. And the golf design really excites me, and I've got 6 courses under construction at the moment, all renovations, not starting from scratch. I much more enjoy renovations than I do starting from scratch. And
why is that? Is that
it kind of keeps me within a footprint. It keeps me more focused, and I'm trying to stay within the footprint that's originally been designed. And I'm trying to bring the golf courses to life, a little bit like having a nice painting and putting a nice frame around it. I like to frame the holes and frame the shots better. And what I'm trying to do is not make golf easier, but make it more appealing. And I know how intimidating this game is, just trying to hit a golf ball from A to B, without having water and huge big deep bunkers to get in your way. So I'm trying to create an environment where you're framed and the target is quite clear and very well defined and looks quite generous. And that's what I'm trying to create in my golf course designs, and the same with my green designs. I'm trying to create a target that people feel comfortable hitting rather than intimidated.
What's your role going to be, Paul, in the future with your academy in Portugal and stuff? Is that something we discussed earlier with your, with the Sports Council maybe, and Team Ireland aspect, or the GUI? Is that something you see more long term? Yeah,
well, to be honest, going forward in my life, where I see myself is very hard, and I don't like to look too far ahead, but I'd love to see myself in 10 or 15 years' time with 6 or 7 or maybe even 10 different irons in the fire, not all just pigeonholing one. I can't see myself playing the Champions Tour or the Seniors Tour and just that's it. I'd like to have a lot of things going on, and maybe the Champions Tour being a part of that. And I really enjoy business, and I enjoy the golf course design. I enjoy the academy aspect. So there's I'd like to have a lot of irons in my fire. I think that keeps me interested. As the bit that I know about myself, I like to have a lot of different interests rather than just one thing and focusing on one thing, because I get bored and I get tuned out after a certain length of while. And it's important for me to keep my interest. So the more things I've got going on, the broader the spectrum, the bit that I know about myself, the more I'm going to be interested, and the better I'm going to perform at each one of them.
Paul, thanks very much for joining us at Wentworth today. It's always great to catch up with you, and best of luck for the future.
Thank you, and good luck with you. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, Paul.